Certain things we think based upon perception and inference, but fundamental thinking is based on, topical thinking is based on perception and inference, whereas the fundamental thinking is based on Shabda Pramana. The one who bases his thinking on Shabda Pramana fundamentally, he is called a Deva. Why? Because he becomes peace-loving. He loves peace because he sees the utility of peace. He loves peace so that he can use that peace to know the truth. Fundamental dharma is not fundamental. It is the Brahma that is fundamental. And dharma is useful because Brahman needs to be understood. Dharma is useful because dharma gives me mental peace. सब होता है. Therefore, a person who not only takes into account the senses and the logic, inference, but he also takes into account Shabda. For him, Shabda Pramanam is the main Pramana. Very, very beautiful thing. This is Shabda Pramana. That's why Mahatma Gandhi, whenever somebody asked a question, he would look into Bhagavad Gita. This is Shabda Pramana. Not as a believer, and this is, see, when we look into Gita for an answer is different from somebody looking into some other scripture for an answer. That's a different thing. Here you can find the answer. That's a Pramana Bhutam. Pramana Bhutam means these Indian scriptures have the vision of truth. Because they have the vision of truth, like the eyes have the vision of the forms, ears have the vision of the sounds. Similarly, Indian scriptures have the vision of the truth. And therefore they are Pramana Bhutam. They have the vision of the truth. Not only they have the vision of the truth, they can hand over that vision of truth to you. They are Pratipadaka Shastras. They can convey. It is Pratipadaka. Not only they know, but they can convey. Some people only know, they can't convey. But Shastram not only knows, but it can convey. And therefore, for a Devata, the fundamental means of knowledge is Shabda. And the one who goes by Shabda Pramanam is a Devata. Why does he become a Devata? Because he is peaceful, reflective, and journeying towards the truth. He is bright. Whereas an Asura is one for whom only perception is the final Pramana, and he goes only by his senses, and he thinks this world is the ultimate, there is nothing beyond. He looks at himself through his own senses, and he thinks this is all that is me, and after this there is nothing. Thus for him what meets the eye is the truth. And for him the source of happiness also is this world. For him this world alone is the truth. For him the source of happiness also is this world. And once you look upon this world as the sole source of happiness, then you would like to acquire it by any means. Compromise begins. Do you know why there is problem? Because when it comes to the objects, there are too many rivals for it. Are you able to follow? So if I have to reach the object before others reach, then I have to run. And in the if somebody else is also running along with me, I can do something to make him fall down. Yes. When it comes to the race for objects, you can't be puritanical. You cannot really follow dharma. It is not easy. If objects are my goal alone, if objects alone are my goal, then I cannot follow dharma ji. This is what some of the rich people say. Swamiji, we cannot be doing both business and also be morally right, etc. Thoda bahut hera fairy karna padta hai. And don't ask us the volume of that thoda. Thoda hera fairy. What is the volume of that thoda? And let us not go into the nitty-gritty details of that thoda. Thoda to karna padta hai. You understand, But once a person goes by Shabda Pramana, then for him the goal is not the wealth, the goal is the truth. Then wealth becomes only a means of survival. He can follow dharma. For whom objects are not the sole goal. For an asura, wealth becomes the sole goal. Because for him the world alone is the truth. For him wealth alone is the source of happiness. There is no other source of happiness. Therefore he says, I must get it somehow or other. I must get the objects that I want, come what may. Why? There is no other source of happiness except money. There is no other source of happiness except wealth. There is no other source of happiness except wine, wealth, women, etc. And in reaching them, I don't mind breaking rules. I am helpless. What can I do? Thus, if the objects are my objective, I cannot be dharmic. Not possible. That very thinking that objects are my objective makes me weak. It destroys my inner strength. It makes me aggressive, not strong. Understand? It makes me aggressive. Looking upon the objects as the sole objective in my life makes me aggressive. Whereas if I look upon the truth as the objective, then it makes me strong and I can resist the temptations of the objects. Then I am not in the race for the objects. I may look for the objects for survival, but I am not in the race. But you cannot be in the race without running. Can you be in the race without hurrying? Hurry is a part of the race. Understand? You cannot be in the race and be relaxed. ऐसा होगा? ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. You can't be in the race and relaxed. It is only when your goal is the truth, you are not in the race. When your objective is the truth, then you are not in the race. When you are not, very sorry. Rama, I wonder what Rama did whenever he got cough. He never told us anything. He just came, killed one Ravana and went away. He never wrote his autobiography. I wish he had written that autobiography. It would have been very useful for us. If your objective is truth, you are not in the race. You may be doing your duties. You may be doing your duties, but not in the race. The moment the truth becomes your objective, you have only leisure and leisure and leisure in life. कुछ है नहीं. In one stroke, the hurry comes to an end. In one stroke, the haste comes to an end. If truth becomes your objective, and one can only discover that the objective is only the truth, not the objects. It is not the objects that are our fundamental need. It is understanding the truth that is our fundamental need. ये बात जो है, it is understood only through Shabda Pramana. Therefore, the one who is dedicated to following and understanding Shabda Pramana is called a Deva. Anybody. If an elephant also follows Shabda Pramanam, it is Deva. Upadhi doesn't make you a Deva or Asuraji. Body doesn't make a person a Deva or Asura. Effulgent body doesn't make you a Deva. Shining body doesn't make you a Deva. Black body doesn't make you an Asura. A good line of teeth doesn't make you Deva. And protruding teeth like fangs don't make you an Asura. What makes one a Deva is keeping the truth the objective. What makes a person an Asura is keeping the objects alone as the objective. Thus, when we talk about the Devas and Asuras, they are not persons, they are two lines of thinking. And in the same person there can be two lines of thinking. Sometimes I become a Deva valuing the truth, and sometimes I become an Asura valuing objects at the cost of the truth. Sometimes my inspiration for the truth overwhelms my cravings for the wealth. And sometimes my craving for the wealth overwhelms my inspiration for the truth, during which time I don't come to Ramana Kendra. And whenever you are inspired, whenever the inspiration for truth is overwhelmed by the craving for the wealth, then चलो बाद में देखेंगे. Doesn't it happen, ji? Two opposites can. They don't exist together, but sometimes this, sometimes love, sometimes hate. If love and hate can alternate each other in the same person, if compassion and cruelty can alternate each other in the same person, if respect for parents and indifference to parents can alternate each other in the same person, then dedication for the truth and temptation for wealth can alternate each other. When I am inspired for the truth, I am a Deva. And then I say, forget the truth, kahin bhag nahi rahe hain, let me go and enjoy for a little while. Then I become what? Asura. Ramana Kendra bhag rahi hai. Na truth bhag rahi hai. Na Swami bhag rahe hain. Swami to purana bechara bahut vriddh ho gaye, wo bhag bhi nahi sakte hain. Sab kuch, everything is safe and secure. I can come back and learn. for a few days, let me have a good time. At that time I become what? Asura. Thus, they are not two temperaments, they are two deliberate lines of thinking. One is impulsive thinking, the other is reasoned thinking. Sometimes I have reasoned thinking in me. Sometimes I have impulsive thinking in me. And the reasoned thinking makes me a devata. And impulsive thinking makes me an asura. It's not the color of the body. It's not the nationality, caste, creed or gender. Even gender. Between man and woman, who is a devata? Can you say that? Kuch nahi hai. That is why studying Indian scriptures corrects your thinking, really, very beautiful. You just really grow out of all the societal labels and follow the Shabda Pramanam. Truth transcends all labels. And if that truth becomes the objective, then labels don't tie you down, Ji. People suffer labels, understand this. And the suffering from labels you can't overcome without being dedicated to the truth, without understanding that the truth transcends all labels. Truth transcends your color, your creed, your caste, your religion, your gender. Otherwise many people say, I am a woman, Swamiji, how can I understand? What is there? Women are flying aircrafts. I think, we have less crashes of the aircrafts flown by women. Why? Because they are very, very sober. They are more practical. They can make better pilots because they drink less, Men drink more. Hey Rama. Therefore, truth is something that is accessible to all human beings. Okay, Ji, they are not there. This is what we are doing now. Let us read the next paragraph. This is Brihadaranyaka Bhashya Ji. Aram se suniye. Try to understand, benefit. Te devascha asurascha. These devatas and asuras. Devas and asuras by the above given definition. These two lines of thinking. Prajapati sharirasthaha. And they are there right in the body of the Prajapati, meaning the senses. And I have already interpreted it. It should mean only the jivas. The various minds are. A mind that follows the line of, a mind that follows Shabda Pramanam is a Deva, and a mind that follows only Pratyaksha and Anumana is Asura. Or we can say, an individual who follows the Shabda Pramanam is a Deva, and an individual who follows only Pratyaksha and Anumana is Asura. That's it. And why he is called Prajapati? Because they are all a part of Prajapati, meaning they are all appearances of the same Prajapati plus an Upadi is called a Jiva. Every wave is water, Ji. Water plus a form, a wave. The so-called plus. This water plus form is called a wave. It is almost like our on TVs, these advertisements come. That plus, there is no plus really, simply they say, it is beauty plus. Alright, beauty, what is that plus? It is a non-existent plus. It is health plus, it gives you health plus. What is that plus? If you want to bluff, put a plus there. It is a bluff. What is that plus we are talking? Similarly, water plus a form. Where is that plus? A notional plus is called a wave. Similarly, what is a human being? It is truth plus a form is called a jiva. But if this jiva follows Shabda Pramanam, he is a devata. Why? He has no choice. He becomes a peace lover. I would like you to try and understand this. Shabda Pramanam makes you a peace lover. Why? Because suddenly you discover peace is the path by which you can discover the truth. Then you don't mind following all the values to become peaceful. You discover the value of peace. You discover how peace is related to the truth. Objects are related to the pleasure, excitements. Objects are related to material pleasures, sense pleasures. Whereas peace is useful for knowing the truth is important. Objects are useful for enjoying. Wealth is useful for enjoying. Wealth, wine, women, they're all useful for enjoying. Whereas peace is useful for understanding the truth. The moment you become a peace lover, you become the lover of dharma, values. Become a devata. Prajapati sharirasthaha yeshu lokeshu, in these worlds, इस दुनिया में निमित्त भूतेषु, for the objects. Devatas crave for peace. Asuras crave for pleasures, material pleasures. Devatas crave for order. Asuras love to disturb it, disrupt the order. Devatas love the lights. Asuras love darkness so that they can function more effectively. Like thieves, What do they like? Light or darkness? Darkness. Yes. Under the cover of darkness, they do all the mischief. Thus, eshu lokeshu nimitta bhuteshu swabhavika itara karma jnana sadhyeshu. The goals in God's creation, which are both the objects of impulses as well as the objects of worship and upasana, karma jnana sadhyeshu. I would like to translate, understandable to you. The variety of goals. Some are goals which are meant to be enjoyed. Some are goals which convey you to the truth, which take you to the truth. Thus this creation abounds in a variety of goals. It abounds in variety of goals. The goals that are useful for an asura and also useful for deva. Objects are useful for an asura so that he can enjoy them. Peace and values and health and order are useful for devatas so that they can use them for truth. In this manner, this God's creation is full of great goals. And asuras try to grab them all. And devatas have to fight for their share. There is always a confrontation between a deva and asura. A devata wants peace and an asura wants to disturb it. Like in your own family, everybody wants peace, and if there is one person who would like to disturb everybody's peace and blackmail them. If you want all your peace back, give me this much of money. And what will you do? Supposing your only son says that. You are 4 brothers, Ji. You have a son, and your brother doesn't have any child, and his brother also doesn't have. Out of 4 brothers, only one brother has the only son. So you can't expect him to be a very gentlemanly, very peace-loving person. It's all a headache. Countless wealth is there. So much. And what will he do? He will disturb everybody's peace until you meet his demand. Asura. Yes. Thus, between a good person and a bad person, I mean, a bad person is one who lives only for wealth. A good person is one who has value for peace and truth. That is my definition of a good person. Between them, there is always a spardha. Spardha means thoda, tu my. Nimitta bhuteshu swabhavika itara karma jnana sadhyeshu aspardhanta. They rivaled. Spardham kritavantaha. They had friction between the two. But spardha means a kind of a friction. Kind of a friction. Always there is ever a friction between two contradictions. Within yourself, the love for peace and the love for wealth, they rival. There is a friction. The love for wealth and the love for wine have friendship. There is no contradiction, Are you able to follow? They go together. Wealth and wine go together. So there is no contradiction between wealth and wine. But there is a kind of a bit of contradiction between wealth and peace. And peace is related to the truth. Wealth is related to the pleasure, enjoy, sense pleasure. Wealth is to be enjoyed, whereas peace is to be used for knowing the truth. That is, of course, the greatest enjoyment. That's a different thing. Therefore, between devatas and asuras, there is always spardha. Now, I want to explain this point, Who can withdraw from this confrontation? Tell me. I'm going to think for you. You may say like this, Swamiji, why not devatas withdraw from asuras and live in ekanta? Aisa nahi hota hai, because both of them have to live in the creation. There is only one creation. Where do you withdraw? Because asuras are there everywhere. Devas are there everywhere, and within you is the asura, within you is the deva. How can you withdraw? Therefore, confrontation is unavoidable between good and bad. This spardha is unavoidable between good and evil. That is why when good suffers too many defeats, when good suffers too many defeats at the hands of the evil, Bhagavan himself comes and does the job. Yes. The Lord takes the situation in his hand. Lord takes charge of the situation. That is the Lord. Something happens in which really the good vanquishes the evil. Yes. That is called avatara. All the devatas, they pray to God to help them. And Bhagavan takes avatar. Why did God take the avatar of Rama? Is it Bhagavan's decision? Bahut badi baat hai ji. If Vishnu came onto the earth in the form of Rama, whose decision it was? It was not Vishnu's decision. It was the prayer of so many people. That is why all the peace-loving people cry in their heart, Hey Bhagavan, help us. Help us against this evil. Help us against this evil. And as a result of that prayer, the law itself throws up the avatar. These are all causation. These are all causation. Your prayojanam also is within causation. Why did Bhagavan Vishnu come onto the earth? To establish good. That is prayojanam. But that is within causation. Okay. Thus, withdrawal from the evil is not possible. You have to deal with it. And in order to deal with it, we have to take the help of the truth. That is what is going to be the topic. Next line, Ji. Devanam cha asuranam cha. Devas and asuras. Vritti udbhava abhibhava spardha. What is a confrontation between the two? Can you define it? The confrontation between devas and asuras is of this nature. That is, sometimes devas dominate, sometimes asuras dominate. They dominate each other alternately. Now the devas dominate. Now Congress party. Now BJP. It is nothing but that. Spardha. Now devas, now asuras. This trying to dominate others is called confrontation. Supposing the evil always dominates the good, then there is no spardha. Or if the good always dominates, it is by nature dominates, then also there will be no spardha. Like in Indian politics, there is no spardha. One single party goes on and on and on and on and on. There is no spardha. But between the devas and asuras, there is a spardha. This is what Bhashyakara says. A nice definition. What is this confrontation? The effort to dominate. Devanam cha asuranam cha vritti udbhava abhibhava spardha. Udbhava abhibhava. Vritti udbhava means, dominate. Abhibhava means to be dominated. To dominate is udbhava. To be dominated by somebody is called abhibhava. If we can pick up the language also. Aminji, we are not so interested in the language. Koi baat nahi ji, I am interested in the language, therefore I have to repeat it. Udbhava, abhibhava. Udbhava means to dominate. Abhibhava means to be dominated. Sometimes gods dominate, sometimes asuras dominate. And there is an intention to dominate. A peace lover wants peace everywhere. And the wealth lover wants wealth and pleasure. A woman lover wants women everywhere. Wherever he goes, a wine lover would like to have wine everywhere. When he goes to the 5-star hotel, the first thing he will ask is, "ये मिल जाता है?" हाँ, मिल जाता है. ठीक है. This is called confront. In a household, why there is a tension? सबके लिए खाना है जी. सबके लिए पैसा है, सबका अपना अपना कार है, सबका अपना अपना ड्राइवर है, सबका अपना whatever you want, everything is available, free, everybody, you can have whatever you want, everything is available. But yet there is so much of tension between one individual and another individual. Why? Do you know why? Dominate, yeah, ego. जो मैं कहता हूँ वो सुनना चाहिए. Dominate. भैया you do your work, they will do their work. ना ना ना, ऐसे इससे काम नहीं चलेगा, जैसे मैं कहता हूँ. You know the story of a South Indian mother-in-law? Don't know? There are a lot of things which you don't know, जी. बताएंगे. One beggar came to Naishkar Siddhikara says, this is a story given by Naishkar. I like it. This is not coming from any newspaper, ji. It is not some Panchatantra tale. It comes from Naishkar Siddhi. Sureshwara Acharya says, I am sure he must have visited South. But the one thing is, I don't know why we say South Indian mother-in-law. He never says South India. He only says mother-in-law. Poor. A mother-in-law, an Indian mother-in-law. He says, an Indian daughter, a beggar comes to somebody's house. And the mother-in-law was not at home, daughter-in-law was there. Okay? And the daughter-in-law tells the beggar, यहाँ पर कुछ नहीं, प्लीज गो. यहाँ पर कुछ देने के लिए नहीं है, प्लीज गो. So she refused to give anything to him. And the beggar was going. He was just leaving the house. And at that time mother-in-law comes. अब कौन है? मैं कुछ मांगने के लिए आया था. What did the girl say there? She says, कुछ नहीं, जाओ. Who is she to tell? Who is she to tell? Who is she to refuse to give you something? I am the head of the family. Come with me. The beggar thought she is going to give me something. The beggar thought the mother-in-law is going to give me something. And after reaching home, she says, who is my daughter-in-law to tell you, go. I am here to tell you, go. Who is she to tell you go? Even to tell you to go, who is she? I should tell, go. I have nothing to give you, go. The beggar was thoroughly confused. ये क्या चक्कर है? This is what is called dominant. What I say should rule. It is not easy. You live your life, I live my life. In this world, ये नहीं चलता है. In every family, everybody wants to dominate. Problem, tension comes. What is politics? Tell me. The essence of politics is what? Trying to dominate, trying to control. Therefore, between devas and asuras, there is spardha. Okay, next line. Kadachit kabhi kabhi Shastra janita karma jnana bhavana rupa vritti. Kabhi kabhi a person is influenced by the fundamental vision of the Shastra. That is called Shastra janita karma jnana bhavana rupa vritti. Thinking in terms of the vision of the Shastra. Thinking in terms of the vision of the Shastra. Even though it is karma and jnana, ultimately it means the vision. The vision of the Shastra. When a person thinks along the vision of the Shastra, when a person thinks along the topic of the Shastra, then Shastra Janita Karma Jnana Bhavana Rupa Vritti Prananam Udbhavati, it dominates in you. Sometimes you are full of Shastra in you. You think dominantly the topic of the Shastra, the truth. You tat chintanam, tat kathanam, tad anyonya prabodhanam, you think of it, you talk about it, you discuss about it, you read about it. This is what is called tat chintanam, tat kathanam, tad anyonya prabodhanam. It happens, just a phase. There is a phase of being seized with the topic of the Shastra. It happens. And when you are seized by the topic of the Shastra, then the Devata in you dominates the Asura in you. The Devata in you dominates. This is what they call. Let us hope the good sense will prevail. What does it mean? Let's hope some Devata will prevail. That inner value for the truth makes you a Deva and dominates. The other things really become subservient. They become quietened. Your temptation for this and that, everything becomes clear. Quietened down. Kadachit Shastra Janita Karma Jnana Bhavana Rupa Vritti Prananam Udbhavati, dominates the living beings. The love for truth dominates the minds sometime. Yadacha Udbhavati, when it dominates the mind. Tada, then. Drishta Prayojana Pratyaksha Anumana Janita Karma Jnana Bhavana Rupa Teshameva Prananam Vrittihi Asuri Avibhuyate. Up to that it means. When your mind is dominated by the vision of the Shastra, the love for Shastra, the love for the truth, your other impulses which have taken root in you because you value only sense perception and the objects. Those impulses which have taken root based on perception and mere objects, avibhuyate becomes dominated, means they subside. When your love for the truth dominates your mind, your impulses for the world subside. Within oneself, you're not talking about another person. In every individual, there is both Deva and Asura. Supposing we interpret, differently. Sometimes, some people are Devas and some people are Asuras, and therefore between them there is a confrontation. Oh, nahi, that's all wrong. That is not what our scripture says. In every individual, there is a Mahabharata. In every individual, there is a Spardha. When your values are good, your right values dominate, wrong values subside. When your wrong values dominate, your right values subside. And therefore, whenever you have a problem with your husband or children or anything, just wait for some time. Invoke the Deva. You just pray to God. The proportion changes. Suddenly they start thinking a little differently. I was told by somebody, a few months ago, it's very, very important piece of information. Even 10 grams of less weight, losing even 10 grams of weight can make a big difference to your heart. Did you hear that? Losing even 10 grams can make a difference. Or adding even 10 grams more it can cause a problem. Like in a balance, you put 1 grain of sugar, it will go down. Now it is in balance. Put just 1 or 2 grains of sugar and that's right, goes. In that manner, when there is a problem in a household, just wait with a prayer, and if there is a little change in the mind, it can mean a lot. It will be all right. Tension will go, confrontation will go, peace can come back. Yes. Thus, it is in the same person. The difference between Deva and Asura is, you become a Devata when you take into account the topic of the Shastra. And if you take into account only the universe, not the topic of the Shastra, then you have to go by your impulses. When I go by impulses, I disturb the peace. When I go by the reason, when I go by the topic of the Shastra, which includes reasoning, then I promote peace. As an Asura, I disturb peace. As a Deva, I promote peace. There is no other way. And you cannot become a Devata without taking into account the topic of Shastra. It's not merely compassion. It's not merely the common sense values. In fact, I become a Devata not only when I am truthful in the world, but I become a Devata only when I understand what truthfulness, what dharma, the goal of dharma is to create a mental peace which is meant for the truth. I should ultimately understand the ultimate objective is the truth, not merely a satisfaction born of being a good person, being a compassionate person, being an honest person. It is not for the temporary satisfaction. A good man follows values not for mere satisfaction. A good man follows values because that is how he will be helped to know it. I want in all my teachings, even though it may take time for the people, even if there are few people to understand, it doesn't matter to me. But in this country, you must help people to follow good values in order to know the truth, rather than just follow values to get some simple satisfaction. It is not for simple temporary satisfaction. If you can make people connect values to truth, you have really done a great job in this world. Connecting right values and right attitudes to the truth is the greatest part of the teaching. Because people should not just be good and then leave it at that. No. Your goodness you must use to know the truth. Your mental peace you must use to know the truth. Your sense of duty must be used to know the truth. All the good things in life, including your wealth, you should connect it to the truth. Things become valid when they are connected to the truth. Things lose validity when you don't connect them to the truth. Are you able to follow what I am saying? Yes. Even if you don't follow, you can still say, yes, we follow. But my inner satisfaction. Okay, the next. Teshamev prananam vrittihi asuri abhibhuyate sa devanam jayaha. When a devata dominates in you, then it is called the victory of devas. Asuranam cha parajayaha, then it is called the defeat of the Asura. Bapre, this is something, These are not known. Without studying all these things, an Indian would say, what is this? Hindus talk about Asuras and Devatas, sometimes they win, sometimes this win. Yes, sab kya? It is all nothing but happening within us. Kadachit tad viparyena devanam vrittihi abhibhuyate asuryaha udbhavaha. And sometimes the Asura in me dominates, and that is the defeat of the Devas. And sometimes the Deva dominates in me, and that is the defeat of the Asura. Thus every time either Deva is winning or Asura is winning. Thus in me the conflict between reasoning and impulse goes on. The conflict between reasoning and impulse. One is the sense of right, the other is a temptation. The spardha is between temptation and the sense of right. I am going to tell you something. Try if you can figure it out. When you have the sense of right and you have the temptation and you fall for the temptation, it creates a sense of guilt, is it not? As long as you still have a sense of guilt, you still have the makings of becoming a Deva. But supposing you fall for the temptation, you fall for the temptation without a guilt, that means you have become an established Asura. Are you able to follow? Who is an Asura? A man who flouts the rule without guilt. He has destroyed his conscience, as it were. He silences his conscience. He knows how to justify whatever he does. If you are able to justify, the guilt disappears. Gee. Some people ask me questions, why some people make mistakes, they commit crimes and don't feel guilt. Because they have learned the ways of silencing, they have learned the ways of justifying what they do. सब लोग कर रहे हैं जी, मैं करने से क्या हो गया? बस हो गए. Everybody is corrupt. If I take little money, क्या हो गया? मैं तो बाकी लोगों से थोड़ा कम ही लिया हूँ. Where is the guilt now? Where is the guilt now? Hey, why did you cast your eyes on your neighbor's wife? But he also cast his evil eyes on my wife. कोई बात नहीं. क्या हो गया इस दुनिया में? थोड़ा बहुत प्लेजर तो होता है. भगवान, why did he create? These temptations are not my creation. God has created these temptations. You go on trying to justify whatever you do, then the guilt is gone. Understand, guilt is something you can manipulate. You can manipulate guilt. You say, I am all right, I am right. Even if you believe that you are right, even though you are not right, you will not feel the guilt. But that doesn't mean the law of karma leaves you. The law of karma can take charge of in time. But what I am telling is, when you commit a crime and still feel guilty, you still have the opportunity to become a Deva. And if you can commit a crime without feeling guilt, that means you still have a long way to go. A guilt-free criminal has still a long way to go. A person who feels the pain inside for having to commit a crime, he has an opportunity to become a Deva. Are you able to follow? In this manner. Vritti abhibhuyate asuryaha bhavaha saha asuranam jayaha devanam parajayaha. And that is when the asuratvam dominates, that is its victory. When Devatvam dominates, that is its victory, and the opposite's defeat. Thus the victory of Devas and the defeat of Asuras, or vice versa, is not to be interpreted as the victory of a few people over other group of people. It's not a victory of a group of people over another group of people, because the confrontation is not between person and person. The confrontation is between two lines of thinking in every person. Did you follow this thought? The confrontation is not between person and person. The problem is between two lines of thinking in every person. Mahabharata is not outside. Mahabharata is inside. And what is happening inside was pictorially explained away by Vedavyasa Mahabharata. That means, Swamiji, was it just a depiction of the inner war? It is not historical. I say it is historical, but it was explained in such a manner that it's like this. Anyway, the inner war alone becomes the outer war anyway. Aur kya? Are the outer wars different from the inner wars? Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, in this manner, Parajaya, Evam Devanam, just I am concluding, Evam Devanam Jaye Dharma Bhuyastvat Utkarshaha A Prajapatitva Praptehe. When Devatas dominate, then they continue to be happier and happier and happier and happier to the level of great happiness enjoyed by Prajapati. When Devatas dominate, happiness grows. And when Asuras dominate, then there is a fall lower and lower and lower. They become more and more. Devatas' victory promotes happiness. Asura's victory promotes unhappiness. This is what is called. They achieve the goals, bigger and bigger goal, right up to Prajapati. And when the Asuras dominate, they fall down and down and down up to the level of Naraka. Thus, Evam Devanam Jaye Dharma Bhuyastvat Utkarshaha Aprajapatitva Prapte Asura Jaye Adharma Bhuyastvat Apakarshaha Asthavaratva Prapte. When an Asuratvam dominates, man can become a tree, a plant, an insect. Swamiji, is it possible? Why not? Anything is possible. Kya ho gaya? After all, a conscious being, now I am asking a question simply. It's over. There is a crystal, colorless crystal. If it can assume yellow color, can't it assume blue color? You say yellow color is sacred color and green color is not so sacred. Let us just imagine. But can it not assume? It can assume a green color, it can assume yellow color, it can assume blue color, it can assume not so good color, sacred color, unsacred color, because it is colorless. Similarly, you can take human body or an insect body. Why? Because you yourself are like a pure crystal. And a pure crystal can assume any form. The formless can assume any form. But a given form cannot assume other forms. Simple common sense. Very simple truth. The formless can assume any form. And therefore, if somebody says, Swamiji, I have done wrong things, do you think that I can be born again as a... You can go back? Yes. One can change. Having become prosperous, can't you become poor? Can't you become prosperous? In fact, you having become prosperous, you can again become poor, poorer than what you are. हो जाता है ना कभी. Going ahead is possible, stagnation is possible, retrogression also is possible. All the three are possible. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti. Rama, Abba.